This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr. Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an IRONCLAD original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. In the Blood is out now. Hardcover, ebook, audiobook read by Ray Porter, anywhere books are sold. Fired up. And guess who else's book is out right now? Cameron Hanes also came out yesterday on the 17th. Today is May 18th. Go check out this book, Endure. Cameron Hanes, awesome guy. You probably already follow him on Instagram at Cameron Hanes. You can also go to his website, CameronHanes.com. Find out more about him as a bow hunter, as an ultra marathoner, endurance athlete, and just a great guy. So inspirational. It was amazing to talk to him, and we had a great conversation. So now, without further ado, Cameron Hanes. And I did see that our books come out on the same day, May 17th. So that is awesome.
That's exciting. I'm so happy for you. I always look at those lists and how books are doing. And I'm like a measurable type guy. Yep. I like numbers and stuff. And your books are always killing it. New York Times bestseller. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think this one's headed up there as well. And we'll find out that next week, but I'm sure this is going to be in the nonfiction side right there on the New York Times list. And I mean, how awesome is that? You know, bow hunter from Oregon, New York Times, this awesome journey. And speaking of that journey, I love how you have Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey and the Call to Adventure in here because, man, that impacted me from an early age. And I think because I saw it so early, I was aware of it so early, I applied it to every movie and show and book that I read from then on. But that call to adventure, I mean, you're called to hunt. You're called to be the best hunter you can possibly be. I love how you articulate it in this book. But that call to adventure, where did you first become aware of it? And how did that impact you going forward?
I don't know. You mean my personal call to adventure?
Yeah. I mean, and then eventually you found out about Joseph Campbell and put the two together, or how did that work?
I've always been a big fan of just reading and thoughts like that, just those powerful thoughts. You know, I mean, now it's like you see them all the time on memes and different things on social media. It's like the name of the game is those quotes that stand out. And so before that, just writers like that always had an impact on me. I've read hunting, from Jack O'Connor. He was a big rifle hunter with the 270s and sheep hunting all the way. That was when I was first coming up reading, mostly rifle, because the bow wasn't, bow authors. I'm trying to think if there's any famous ones. My first one was Dwight Shue. Fred Bear was before me, of course, but everybody knew of Fred Bear. But Dwight Shue was editor of Bowhunter magazine. And so I've always been drawn, and he was an amazing writer. Went to graduated here in Eugene from Oregon with the journalism degree. So he's always like my writing mentor. And I've been drawn to strong writing my whole life.
That's awesome. I love how you talk about that in the book and wanting to write and then writing your first articles and getting that letter back that says, hey, keep going. Like, hey, we're not going to accept this one, but keep going. I love that. And I love that you write in there, you say, how lucky are you? So you're saying this to the reader. How lucky are you that you don't need anyone to believe in you or your dream, and yet you can still make it a reality? You can become exceptional. I mean, I love that. Yeah. It's fantastic advice, and it's so true. And it's, it's not true, obviously, most places around the world.
Right. We're blessed to live here in this country. We can chase our dreams. And that's what I always think. It's like, in these other countries, you could be the smartest person in your country. That doesn't mean you're going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So just a simple example like that just shows us how lucky we are.
Yeah, we sure are. I think about it every single day. And then you also write something, there's so much in here that resonates with me. But you also write, what if? And you say that those are the two most haunting words in the English language.
Right.
And I completely agree, but I love the way you frame it in here. So where did that realization come from? And when did that kind of enter your conscious thought?
Yeah. It's the same thing with a man's greatest regret is untapped potential. And I see people who have been better at me at what I do my whole life, in these little genres of writing or bow hunting or running or lifting or whatever. I am average at all those, but I've just stuck with it. So that whole thing about what if this would have happened and I wouldn't be doing this, or all these what ifs about if, we're so in control of chasing those dreams, but it's a conscious decision. You have to just push through adversity. You have to endure it, which is the whole point to the book is just, you can have the most talent in the world, but if you don't just keep pushing, it's going to be untapped. And I never want that. What if I would have done this? What if I would have done that? I want to just give my best and everything.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like that's a threat. You are definitely not living the quote unquote average life. I mean, you are crushing it each and every day. Such a great example to everybody out there. I love everything that you post, everything that you stand for. And I love this. You write, weak people hate success. I just keep hammering. When did you realize that? Did you, was it early on the kind of the haters or whatever you would have called them, 30 years ago or 20 years ago? Yeah. When did you realize that?
Yeah. I mean, that's just been, I think that's a constant anywhere, in any town, any small town, any big town. But I grew up in a small town, and I don't know, for my first kill, I killed a spike bull after, 18 days of bow hunting. And a spike is, for those that don't know, it's just a 1 point on each side. It's not a trophy. It's a first year bull basically. But killing it with a bow got people's attention. And so right then it started that they didn't kill a bull, I did. So it's either you make that decision as, oh, am I going to celebrate this guy? Like, hey, good job. I know how hard it is. Or you can try to tear him down. Well, a lot of people will try to tear it down because they see competition. And, as men, I think it can be a strength and it can be a weakness too. And for a lot of weak men, it's one of their biggest weaknesses is they can't celebrate other people's success. Mm-hmm. They try to tear them down. So that started, my whole life, basically.
I know you're such like a lightning rod for it. And I have a question about that later on that I want to ask you, but I also love that you talk about the bow rack all the time. You talk in the book as well. You talk about Bob Frome at Performance Archery. And when I graduated buds, my gift to myself was a bow from Performance Archery. So I went up there, had Bob fit me and everything. And what a great guy, what a great shop that is. And I love small town bow shops. Every time I go to a new town, and I try to see if there's a bookstore and then a small town bow shop, and try to go in, at least buy a hat or something, from the bow shop or something. Because I just love how they're set up. And there was one in Northern California we used to go to. I don't think it's there anymore. When I was a kid, and I look forward to going there every single summer and getting a new bow. And then we'd go get some bales of hay right there, and then take it up to the cabin. And I just have such great memories. So, and Bob Frome, he actually helped come up with the keep hammering in a way, right?
Yeah, Cam the Hammer, he would say. And he was like, when I was coming up too, he's probably 10 years older than me, I'd say. But he was, I don't want to say at his peak because he's still really good, but he was killing it in archery. And he was going around the world. He killed the Super Slam in North America, which is every big game species with a bow is amazing. And so I really looked up to him. He was kind of just a cool guy. He's Southern California, just had a cool look. He had like the long hair. He just had he was like, I don't know. Kind of like a rock star to me.
Yeah. No, he still is. And he's still out there surfing, and, what a unique guy. He's such a fantastic person. And so you felt that you hunted earlier on in life, had a couple hunting experiences with a rifle. And then at some point you had this call to hunt with a bow, and then to improve yourself and become the best bow hunter you could possibly be. And you add running and ultra marathons and lifting to all that. How did that journey begin? And was it like hey, I'm out here, and you know what? I can get better if I run. And then you know what? If I run farther and faster. And how did that all come about?
Well, it's when I started hunting the wilderness, which was in the early 90s. And so I'd be back there by myself, 12 miles from the trailhead, the wildest country Oregon had to offer. And I realized, mentally, physically, I was getting it done and I could kill bulls, but there's a lot. I also failed a lot. And I did not feel like I was at the top of my game. I was doing it. and I could turn it into a big story, just like people always do. They never want to admit that they could, or I don't want to say they never, but it's few people who want to admit they could be better. You know, they're settling a little bit. And I realized I was back there. I was fatigued. I was homesick. I felt like I was mentally, I was getting it done, but I wasn't the best I could be. And I'm like, this means so much to me, and failing hurts so bad. I have got to figure out how to get better at this, how to get tougher, how to get more fit, you know, because this wilderness area is 30 miles by 60 miles. So it's a huge area. And then I thought, man, if I could do these ultra marathons and run 100 miles in a day, this wilderness is like, I could hunt anywhere. And so that's what I started to do.
Man, I love it. I grew up trail running too, in some of the, not the exact same country, but still Northern California. And I look back when I was in buds, I look back to some of those just hills and those trails and those steep pushes. And I thought back, you know what? Hey, I can do a few more push-ups here in the sand at the beach, you know, because, you know, running on those trails when it's only you, and it's just, no one's going to know if you stop. I remember that as a kid. I'd go out there on the weekends and I'd run these trails, and no one's going to know if I stop, but I'll know.
Exactly.
I'll know. Yeah. And I thought back to that, even all those years later, you know, 15 years later, whatever it was in buds, you know, thinking back to those times. So, I think there's so much benefit, not just the physical part, but just, also that mental part of not stopping, even when you're the only person that will know, but just being in that fresh air and the beauty and being a part of it. It's just, there's so many benefits to trail running. I just love it, man.
There, you know, that you said that you would know if you stopped. That reminds me, I had this goal one time, and I don't think I put it in the book, but I wanted to do an ultra marathon on Saturday. There's one in Southern Oregon, in Ashland, actually. So you're talking about Northern California, just over the border. And great mountains right there. There's a ski resort up there. So there's an ultra marathon up there. It's called the SOB. And then the next day was Eugene Marathon, was a regular street marathon here in Eugene. So I thought, well, I'm going to do the ultra on Saturday and the regular on Sunday. And I was so beat up. I was like, did the 50K in 4.5 hours. It's like 7,000 feet of gain. So it was not easy. My feet were pretty banged up and blistered and all this. So then the next morning I get up and I'm sitting here in the kitchen and my feet, I could barely walk. And my wife comes down and she goes, just Cam, you're in too much pain. Don't do it. Does anybody know, did you post this or anything that you're going to do this? And I'm like, I know that my goal was to do an ultra and then the next day do a regular marathon. So no, I didn't post it. It doesn't matter. I know that's what I was going to do. And I'm wavering on doing it anyway. So I went and I went to the race, and there's this little side street there by Hayward Field where the race started. And I did a little jog, and it's like, oh my God, this hurts so bad. And I kind of jogged one block and jogged back. And I'm like, well, I'll try it. Anyway, I started off pretty slow, like 8:30s. And then I ended up actually getting into a groove, just like you do. You push through, and it's amazing what you can find, what you're capable of. And I think that's the whole point of buds, I think, for you guys. Yeah. And then I ended up, clicking off some fast miles and actually having a good time. But it was like that decision where, do I really want to do this or not? But if you have to live with yourself, so you can't lie to yourself.
That's right. Oh man. And that trail running in particular, for whatever reason, because you're alone, there's no cars around, no exhaust, I don't know, there's something just about it. I love being out there. And I remember, it was just regular running shoes back in the day, but I remember when like the first trail running type of shoe came out, and I think I was probably in 5th grade. And it was like the Nike Lava Dome or Son of Lava Dome. And I need to look up on eBay if I can find one, because I think I wore those for a long time. I'm pretty sure that my memory serves, but I might be off. And that wilderness that you're hunting in Oregon, is that the Eagle Cap Wilderness? Is that where you would go? Man,
that's
it's
right.
So beautiful. I love it up there. It's just, Oregon's such a beautiful spot.
It is, but I used to hunt the Marbles too, which is north. I don't know if that's where you were, if you ever gotten the Marbles or the, what's that other big wilderness right
I was like
there?
Three Sisters. I spent time backpacking there and going to the Middle Sister, South Sister, I think. Something that when I was a kid. But that's so beautiful.
Yeah, the sister. So there's north, middle, south, and then right by there's Broken Top, and then Bachelor is a little ways away. But those are all good peaks right there in the Cascades, right out of Bend. That is great country.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon's such a great state. And then down south, I love the Rogue River, going down there. Great memories. I've taken my family there many times, get away from the phones and the iPads and everything else. And getting to the bottom of a river canyon like that, or the Deschutes or something. I love that. And then getting out hunting with the kids, like those two things. Get to the bottom of a river canyon. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no cell service. You're forced to be right there together in the moment, enjoying that beautiful wilderness area. And then same thing with hunting. The places that we go, most of the time, there's not service, certainly not Wi-Fi. So many benefits to it. But I also wanted to ask you about the 130-pound rock that you thought was about 70 pounds. And I love that story. I don't want to cover every story in here because I want people to buy this and get it and then give it to their 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader, high school, or someone who's just getting out of college and into the workforce, or getting out of high school into the workforce. Because there's so many lessons that you share, and I'm a huge proponent of learning from others and applying that going forward as wisdom. Because you're going to learn lessons, and you're going to get hit, you're going to get knocked down. Like, that's a given. But you can learn from other people's as well, so you can grow a little bit and kind of expand your horizons and your potential. And there's so many great lessons in here. But the 130-pound rock story was fantastic.
Yeah, I had been running. So I run this mountain every day at lunch, and it's about 1,000 or 1,100 foot gain. So in a mile and a half. So gets up pretty good. And if you, as hard as you push, you can, that's what, how much you're going to hurt is basically on how fast you're running. So if you hike it, it's not that bad. If you try to run hard, it's exhausting. But anyway, so I did this seminar at Cabela's, and I remember seeing this rock. And so I told the guys, I said, hey, does anybody here want to go with me and do my mountain? And after we get done with this seminar, there's this rock on the side of the trail, and I'm going to carry it up, and we can do this all together. So I figured, like you said, it's about 70 pounds. And I got to it. All the guys are there around me, and I'm like lifting it up. I'm like, oh my God, this thing is more than 70. I had never.
Was it like an iceberg? Like there's only a spectrum above the ocean?
I just hadn't really thought about carrying a rock before. So I was like, I just seen it, just based on the size, I'm like, whatever I had in my head, maybe that was 70 pounds. Apparently rocks are more dense and heavy than I had ever realized. So I picked it up, and I'm like, oh my God, this is more than 70. So I ended up carrying it up, and it's cool. It was hard, very hard. But on another trip, I'm like, I wonder how much this thing's actually weighs. So I hauled it all the way down and took it to the gym and put it on the scale, and it was 130 pounds. So I learned a lesson on that one. And it's hard because you got that 130-pound rock on your shoulder. It's like you're switching. And you can't, you're holding like this, but then your biceps get exhausted, and your grip on your hands goes, because those are small muscles. And it's like, anyway.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, no, I love it. I need to do that around here because, people are always, thinking, oh, I need to get the gym, or I need to get this or that to work out. And you're like, just grab a rock, and you can get it done. I love that lesson. Yeah, just carry a 130-pound rock. Maybe build up to it. I don't know. And then there's the story of Lance Armstrong, and he was someone you looked up to, and then you actually, I think you do 2 races with him, but in one in particular, you guys run together and you beat him, and at the end, there's this great photo of you guys together. And what was that like to meet him, to run with him, and have that experience?
It was incredible. I mean, I was just another runner in the horde. Basically, it was like, Boston is the most famous marathon in the U.S. And I think there's usually about 25 or 30,000 people. So my goal was, there's a big thing about Lance running Boston because he was the endurance king at that time. He had just come off winning 7 Tour de France's, and he just retired, I think 2007. This is 2008. So he was like at the peak. Just everybody knew Lance. Everybody loved what he stood for. This is before all his drama or whatever. So he was like one of the most recognizable people in the US, or maybe in the world. Anyway, I had this goal. I was like, well, I'm going to go do Boston. I want to try to see if I can find Lance in the mass and run with them and maybe get a picture. If somebody could take a picture somehow, because I knew there was going to be press there and people just on the course. So that was my goal, because I've read his book. It's not about the bike, and is just super impactful. I loved his drive and his heart. So anyway, we get to the race, and I'm running, and I was like, see this big crowd up ahead of me. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Lance right there. I'm looking, I can see his gold. He had this gold singlet on. And so I'm like, okay, there's this group. I kind of stayed in this, probably like 3 miles in. So then we get up to about 13, just before halfway, and he's kind of by himself. And so I'm like, oh God. I'm dying. He's going pretty fast, probably like, 630 or 620 miles. I don't know what it was. But I get up there and we had shared a few words, I talk about it in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And he turns out he had lost his pacers, and he probably, I don't even know if he remembers. Of course, I remember every word he said, but to him, I'm just another guy. And so he asked me what pace I'm going to run. And I tell him, and he's like, well, I'll just stay with you. And because we were going to run about the same pace. And so that was like the story of, or I ran last 13 miles of Boston with Lance. And total, it was like, it didn't seem real because I had this vision that this was going to happen before the race. And I'm just some nobody in Oregon going to Boston, most famous guy in the world. And it actually happened. It happened like I envisioned. So
it's so cool. I love what your kids say before you go. I think it was a great lesson for them. That they'll never forget because of what they said to you before you left and then what happened. So I think it's all fantastic. And then were you Under Armour's longest sponsored athlete? Is that right? I mean, until just recently, but you since moved on very recently. But how did that come about? How did you even connect with Under Armour? Because when did they start? Was it like late 90s, early 2000s, or when did they?
God, when was that? 96, I think. Okay. So I went to the 20-year anniversary. That must in 2016 probably. So 96, I would think. But I was just at the SHOT Show. You've been to the SHOT Show. Yeah. I mean, you know what it's like. So they had an Under Armour booth there. This was back about 2004 or 3 maybe, and maybe 2003. And so I go up there and they had Randy White, who played for the Cowboys. Big picture of him standing there, big, like they go big, with athletes all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I go into the booth and I'm like, so what are you guys doing here? And they said, well, we're going to make the first layer for hunting, basically, to wick that sweat away, which is key when you're hiking the mountains. So I'm like, oh, I thought you guys just did football. And they said, no, we're looking to get into this space. And I said, oh, okay, cool. I said, man, I go, Randy White, he's a beast, huh? And they said, yeah, he had a Super Bowl ring on. He's holding a bow. And I said, that picture would be even better if you had a rest on that bow. Because it's like he was in the woods, had a bow, but it wasn't even, they just bought the bow just for the picture. Yeah. So it's like, it wasn't, to me as a hunter, how hunters are, it's like, is this guy legit or is this, what is this marketing? So I'm looking at like, I don't really care who it is, but I'm like, that's not really legit for a hunter to, you're not going to have a bow out in the woods with no rest. So anyway, that kind of led to our relationship, and then I got signed on, and then that was like, I think 17 years or whatever. Wow. We worked together. So
that's fantastic. And then Hoyt comes along at some point too. And I love how you talk about your first bow and what that was like. And you've had a long-term now relationship with Hoyt. And I love Hoyt. I have multiple bows, and I love my Hoyt as well. And you're still shooting that thing. They make you a special one, right? So you have that 90-pound draw.
Yeah, they do.
I love that. So how's that been? I mean, obviously you've been working with them for a long time, but how does that bow come about when you ask them, hey, you make this special for me? How does that work? Are they like, I guess it's you, so yes, but
no, I mean, they pushed back for a while because it's like, how it works. I mean, the whole point to being a sponsored athlete is you make other people want to use what you use because you have success. So that's like the genesis of how this works. But, so that's a good and a bad, because if I want something that hardly anybody ever is going to want to buy or can use because it's 90 pounds, well, that's not helping my sponsor essentially. Right. But I'm like, I don't, this isn't a business for me. This is what I love to do. If I feel like I can shoot higher poundage and I feel like it's going to give me more confidence in the woods, confidence is key. When all the chips are against you, you have to believe. So all this to me goes into believing in what I'm doing and if I'm going to get it done. So I said, I don't really care if nobody else can buy it. That's not why I do this. I want a 90-pound bow. That's all there is to it. So it took a while because it's like, for business, it's, it's not a huge market for people when to pull that heavy of a bow. But anyway, they ended up doing it because I do have a big passion for this, and I do share archery almost every single day on social media. So it is impacting people. Oh yeah. And I remember some shop owner said, I'm getting tired of these people coming into my shop and and asking about a 90-pound bow. And I'm like, oh, I told him, I said, would you rather them not come in your shop
Seriously.
and not talk about it? I mean,
yeah.
So, hey, that's your opportunity to sell something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so whatever. I mean, I understand. If I'm a shop, you want the athlete to mention something that they have and they can sell directly. I understand. But also there's something good about a discussion. And you've been around pro shops. It's kind of like a bar, but with no alcohol. Yeah. It's like guys in there just BSing. And so that's good because that's how we build the community. So, anyway.
No, I love the community around local bow shops. And if anybody from Hoyt is listening to this, I don't think it impacts in a bad way that you want a 90-pound bow, because most people, that's aspirational. And most people want to shoot what you're shooting. Oh, I can't maybe shoot a 90-pound, but you know what? A 70 something or mid 70s or whatever, like that's good. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter. I think it's all good. So if anybody at Hoyt that was worried, no need to worry. I think you guys are good. What have you learned over all this time, like on the business front and kind of coming into this a little bit before the rise of social media and all these other things, and writing for magazines here and there, and then your first book on bow hunting, and then your next one, and now this, and like, what have you learned about business over this time? Because I think that's a lot of experience in a world that, I mean, there's business points attached to it. What have you learned that you maybe you wish you knew going in, or that you would have done differently, or that you want to pass on to other people generally as far as business goes?
Well, there's a word now that people like to use that I don't even know. I wish it wasn't even a thing, but it's being authentic, right? Like being authentic is a thing now. Yeah. And to me, that's just like, that's how it should be. You shouldn't have to like be celebrated for being real.
I know.
You should just be. So anyway, I've been authentic my whole time, and I've never really wavered. I mean, just like telling Hoyt, I want to shoot 90-pound. I don't really care about anything else. Just like, to me, that's just like being true to myself.
Yep.
So anyway, it's like, I think that's a key with it, because I see people can cuss social media, but when I was first coming up and wanting to write, it was hard for me to get an opportunity just to get my words in a publication, because they have staff writers, they have all this. If my writing wasn't super clean, they'd have to spend time editing. So I couldn't hardly get an opportunity for years. And I would just be so frustrated. I'm like, even though I was wrong, probably, I'd say, well, I can hunt as good as these guys. I can write as good as these guys. They won't give me an opportunity. I felt now another word is marginalized, right? Because I was like this small town nobody. So I was like, couldn't get a chance. And now social media, for all its negatives, also is positive, because you don't need an opportunity. You can create your own. Yeah. More people see my stuff on my social media than ever saw it in a magazine, or on TV for that matter. So social media is great if you're authentic, if you just work hard and never waver, and then you just get your work out there and just try to say, hey, how can I make this world a better place? How can I have a positive impact on people? And if you do that, you're going to have a future in this.
Yeah. I try to tell the kids, I say, you never miss an opportunity to make somebody's day. Like it's
exactly.
But the authenticity word, I mean, we always say, but there's not really a better word for it. So it's a real thing, and it would be exhausting not to be authentic on these online platforms, because with how much engagement there is and how much people share, if you're not yourself, like it's going to destroy you, and people will see the real you if you're faking it with all the engagement and all the things. Like so it's much better to be authentic from the outset. That's for sure. And cool. Speaking of that, you are very honest about a lot of the hunts in here. I mean, obviously you crushed it every single season, but you share a particular hunt on the San Carlos Indian Reservation that impacted you a couple years ago. And it's in the book. Maybe we don't have to get too far into it, but it's because I want people to read about it here. But I mean, you're open about it. You're honest about it. It works out. But what was that hunt like for you?
It was a dream hunt. I never thought I'd ever have a chance to hunt. That's been like the most famous elk country in the world, basically. And I used to remember watching videos of that, 20 years ago, in these giant bulls. And I thought, there's no way somebody like me could ever hunt there. Well, my buddy Kip Folks, who was the original founder of Under Armour, he got the opportunity to hunt there, made a positive impact on the people of the reservation. I love the people of San Carlos for what it's worth. And he was able to score me a tag, essentially. So first time I ever went there, it's like the dream. It's, people say, well, if you have money, you can do it. It's like, no, it's not. It's more than money. You have to. It's like a community. You have to respect the animals, respect the mountains, respect the people, and have money. So it's hard to get that opportunity. It's like lightning in a bottle. So anyway, I had this opportunity, and I ended up making a poor shot on this giant bull. It's a 10x9, just a bull that you don't even think exists. And I made a poor shot on it. And so the whole premise of that story in there is all the worry and concern and wondering if I had got a fatal arrow into that animal and how the hunt was going to turn out. And it was with all that pressure of, a once in a lifetime, plus it's expensive to hunt there. Plus this has been my dream my whole life. All this has been the pinnacle of everything I've worked towards. And then to make a poor shot was, you'll have to read the book to see how it turned out.
Yeah, there we go.
It was rough.
There we go. No, and I think it's humbling to read that, but it's also inspiring that one, you share it, and for two, people know that, hey, life isn't always perfect, and even when you've built everything up to this moment, that you shared that was really cool. And then you also say something else in here. You say, I don't give advice. I just share what I do. And I love that because most everyone else is giving advice out there.
Right.
And you are not. You are sharing your life journey. If it inspires you, other people, wonderful. And you inspire, obviously, untold thousands of people, most of whom you'll probably never hear from, but you're having this positive impact on the world. But do you think that approach infuriates people more than if you were actually giving advice?
It might.
It might too.
Actually, it might. They would probably have a feeling one way or another either way. But it's easy to rip somebody who's sitting there saying, hey, I'm the expert, do this. Yep. And then they want to find these chinks in your armor that, oh, you're not an expert. But if you say you're not an expert, then they're like, now what do I say?
Exactly. That's fantastic. I love it, but I think it gets under some people's skin more than it would if you're out there like, this is what you should do. This is how I do it. This is exactly what your workout is, or exactly what this. I I love it. And
I say that because I know, like with hunting, I know how of a novice I feel like sometimes. I've done it my whole life, but there's still times where I'm like, how have I ever killed anything with an arrow? It feels impossible. And so I'm like, I think about that person at that time, and I'm like, I'm definitely not an expert. I can't fake be an expert because I feel like I'm failing out here. So I'm just being honest that even with running, there's some runs I go on where I'm like, it doesn't feel like I can run a mile. I feel awful. So how am I out there giving people advice on how to do this? So anyway, I'm just being honest. I don't feel like an expert all the time. And so I don't want to sell that like I am.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all fantastic. And there's few things in here that really stood out to me. And actually I read this one paragraph and I was like, I put the book down. I'm like, wow. I'm like, yes. And you write this, you wrote, years ago, I remember hearing the following quote: they don't make statues of critics. I'd never heard that before. And I'm surprised that I've never heard that before. And you write, those words are powerful to me. To me, it means that it's easy for people who aren't taking chances, sharing their passion, or exposing themselves through their words or actions to sit back and criticize those who are. Nobody likes to be judged, including me, but I've come to terms with it because I put myself out there. And in doing so, I know dealing with critics is part of the deal. If you have a burning passion for something that moves you, never be afraid to share it. When you do, you're making a positive difference and inspiring others. The critics, no one will remember.
Right.
That's pretty powerful. I love that.
Thank you. It's obviously not my quote, but it is. I thought it was powerful too. But to me, it's like the biggest thing that sets people apart. And I think even like Rogan, he'll be the first to admit why he likes to have these kind of crazy guests on sometimes. Like most podcasts go with the most popular people. It's like, that's they're like, okay, this guy everybody's talking about, this is who I want to talk to. Joe talks to people like who he thinks has a passion for life, for whatever they do. If it's like, for me, it was bow hunting. He's like watching my videos and going, could see the passion that I'm trying to do this to be the best I can be. There's a passion there. And that's what draws people. It's passion. Yeah. And so it's, I think no matter what, and that's the whole point to the book. If something as arbitrary as bow hunting, got me all these opportunities just by having a passion and this is what I want to do. It doesn't matter what you do. It could be any small field, any pursuit. But if you have a passion, that's going to stand out and that's going to impact people. Just believe in it and chase it with all you got. And who knows what happens, but it starts with that passion.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I think that's why a lot of people have a problem leaving, not just the military, but anything in life, job transition, divorce, whatever it might be, is identifying that passion. And you listen to the calling. Like I listened to the calling to serve my country in military, specifically as a SEAL, listened to that calling to be a writer after that. It was very clear to me, but I listened to it. I didn't let other people discourage me along the way, or even with their looks. Like, you'll grow out of it. You know how hard that is? Like, I didn't listen to any of that. I used that as fuel. And I didn't let it take up any bandwidth in my head. So that passion, I think that is why so many people have a hard time, because they don't listen to the calling, and that calling is the passion. That can help you lead you to that passion. And you also write a few other things. I mean, this is from Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love it. You have to remember something. Everybody pities the weak. Jealousy, you have to earn. Like, I had never heard that one before either. And then Kobe has this one. Nobody hates the good ones. They hate the great ones. I love it. I love it.
If people are talking shit about you, you're probably doing something right. Is the moral to all that. I mean, but I did want, so with you being a SEAL, was that something you always wanted to do?
Yep. So from my earliest days, I wanted to serve my country in the military, even before I knew what SEALs were. But I found out what they were when I was 7. So at that point, I identified that. But my grandfather was killed in World War II. He was a Corsair pilot, which is the plane that had the gull wings that would fold up on aircraft carriers. Late 70s, early 80s, there was a show on TV called Black Sheep Squadron with the Robert Conrad playing Pappy Boynton. And so that was like my dad would sit down and watch that show, and he never met his dad. His father was killed, obviously. Well, he was very young. And so we had that connection to that generation through the medium of popular culture. And then I had all his medals, I had his wings, I had pictures of him in his squadron. I had the silk maps they used to give aviators back then, because if you had a paper map in the water, it would just disintegrate. So you had a silk map that could get wet and you could still use. So I just had this calling. I think it was just in my blood. Just that calling to serve in uniform and to hunt, because those two things are so they're parallel, and they're almost one and the same from the beginning of time. It's those same tools that we use to defend the tribe and ourselves and our family are the same ones, obviously, we use to put food on the table, and they've developed over time. But there's such a connection there. It was so primal, but I listened to it.
Well, thank you for your service to our country, man. And also just like you were impacted by that show on TV, and your grandfather, you're impacting future generations with these stories, and like with the Terminal List movie, it's gonna have that same type. And that's what our country needs, is like men who are called to do this, to defend everything we stand for. So thank you for all you've done in the past, and all for the impact you're making on the future.
Oh, I appreciate that. I think like now more than any other time, probably those kids that are 6th grade through high school, like they need people to look up to, because there's so many bombardments out there that are unhealthy, and there's no way to guard them against those things. So who they follow, who they read, what movies they watch, like all those things are important. They don't all exist in a vacuum. It's all connected. And you have so many great quotes in here. You also quote Conor McGregor. Obviously, you go to the UFC fights. Those of us, I think those of us who hunt, and those of us, who put on the uniform, there's, like I said, there's all those connections, but UFC also brings us together there, because it is so primal, I think. And Conor McGregor says, "I dreamt this so clearly, so precisely, and so frequently that has manifested itself into reality." And you put that in here, and you identified with, why did you identify with that quote?
Well, I mean, just like that Lance Armstrong story about running Boston, it reminded me of that, because I had said that before I went, and my kids were laughing at me, like saying, the boys were young at that time. They're like, "Oh, you're just a dad. That's Lance Armstrong. There's no way." And so I had this vision, and it was going to happen, and it did happen. And so it's been the same way with hunting. I was this kid in the small town, growing up, logging community, and I had this vision of something I wanted to do. And there's every reason for it not to happen. I mean, people from where I came from just don't, quote, make it like this. And so that vision was there, though, and it happened. So, I mean, that's why it's I 100% believe with what Connor said there. It's like you can manifest your destiny, but yeah, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, but it can happen, and you have to be unwavering, but you can do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had an interview early this morning, and they asked me about that. They said, did you ever think that you would have a movie or a TV show? And I said, yes, absolutely. I thought that, because growing up in the
Yeah.
80s, I was reading all these books and reading Tom Clancy and Nelson DeMille and AJ Quinnell and JC Pollock and Mark Olden and Louis L'Amour. And I just thought, yeah, one day I'm going to be one of these guys. And then obviously an A-list star is going to option it. It's going to be a film. Like, it was just, as a kid, that's just what I thought. I never wavered from that. So I love that quote from Conor McGregor, because I immediately thought of me as a kid, reading in Northern California and thinking that one day I'm going to write books like this, and then they're going to make films. And it was, so that one really, I felt connected to that quote. And you also write so many great things in here, but another one is, unachieved goals don't have to result in unused gifts. And I thought that was one of the more powerful things that you wrote in here, and that really stuck out to me. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the work you're putting in, it's like failure is always going to be part of it. So you might have this big goal, and the failure hurts because, or some people water down their goals because they're so afraid of failure. Mm-hmm. But I think if you have a big goal, and if you fail, you still gain from it. No matter what, you gain because you learn how to deal with failure. You learn how to deal with having something like I said, like in that San Carlos hunt, where I was on the cusp of a dream my whole life, that I had my whole life, failing, and how bad that hurt. It couldn't hurt any worse, but you learn from those. And I just think, so it's not, you're never wasting your time. There's no wasted effort. That's all part of what's going into this whole big process, this whole big equation. And then the next time when you succeed, it's like you remember all that pain, all that effort you put in, and you're like, well, this is why I had to go through that to get to here. Yeah. So that's how I believe it.
Man, I love that one. And then you talk about, I'm so glad you did this in here. You talk about something that is very unique to you, that you shared once on social media. And I was one of the few that caught it before you took it down. And you talk about it in here, and that's counting coup. And it was probably 2 years ago. And I remember that I watched it. I went back to watch it again, because I still remember what you wrote under there, and it's 2 years later. And I remember you took it down. I'm like, oh, okay, took that thing down, but it was, and you wrote in there, that you don't usually share this, but this is what you do. Like this is like what you do. And it's not like a one-time thing, but you don't usually share it, and you shared it. Right. And then someone in the book, you explain why you took it down. Someone called you and you talked about it. But can you explain counting coup and what that means to you? Because I think it's so powerful and so unique to you. And that you shared that stood out to me. I haven't forgotten it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was, counting coup is kind of a Native American thing, and they would do it with their enemies. If they could get in and instead of kill the enemy, put their hands on them. And a key for the Native Americans would be like their enemy, they might lock eyes and realize I could be dead, but I'm not. And so that was counting coup, one tribe against another. It would be an example. And then if they did that, then they would put an eagle feather on the staff. If they tried to count coup, ended up getting injured, that eagle feather would be dipped in red and still on their staff. So it was like this form of bravery or respect, or I guess that'd be the best way to describe it. But to me, is like I wanted to get to an animal that I killed and be there when its life left, and just show my respect, because and non-hunters have a hard time with this, about how much we respect these animals in the country and everything involved in the hunt. It's in our DNA, and it's what makes me who I am. But so I've killed a few bear, and as I run the arrow through them, they take off. And if I can get there before they die and touch them and be with them as that life leaves, to me, that's like I'm giving my respect to an animal I killed. And I've told him on that video, like I think that you saw, is like, it's okay. Thank you. Sorry, but this is what I do, and you can go now. And it's people would even hunters might have a hard time with that. So Wayne, who owns the bow rack here, he's the one who called me, and I know he's in my corner. And he said, I'm worried about how this might be perceived, and I thought I tried to explain it, everything that it meant to me in the words, but still it's like, so, bears sometimes do death moans. So, when you hit them in the lungs and they're dying, they'll do a death moan, which sounds pretty haunting in the woods. And so all that wrapped up in a hunter chasing a wounded animal and touching him and saying those words and the bear death moaning, it's intense. But to me, that power, it's like we kill to survive every day. I mean, every human life out there, there's death associated with it. So to me, it's just like accepting that and also honoring it and honoring that animal for giving its life to me. But people who don't realize that their existence costs lives, they don't understand that. But yeah, that's a point to County Coup to me.
Yeah, no, it's so powerful. And I think, I don't even think you knew that it was being filmed on that one. I think somebody Johnny was running behind you maybe, or somebody was running behind you videoing it and gave it to you after. So it was,
no, I never said, hey, let's film this.
Yeah. I think you said that in that, I mean, it's 2 years ago. I still remember that in what you wrote there, which makes it even more powerful. Once again, that being authentic piece. But that was, and I love that you explain it in here. It's just, it's amazing. And speaking of the anti-hunter stuff, you do talk about it in here, and we can leave that for people that pick up the book, because obviously we're hunters. But a couple of things you say in here about that. Another line that stood out to me was that when was the last time a hunter threatened an anti-hunter's life? And it happens to you, I don't know, daily.
It does
quite a bit.
It goes back to that. I don't think they understand life and death and respect life. So hunters, they understand that connection. They're not going to threaten. They're not going to make a threat like that, because we understand what death means. I mean, we've seen it. We've been around it. They don't. They're like not really in reality. They're in this fantasy land where nothing dies. Everybody's happy. I don't know how they think. But so to them, threatening death isn't that big of a deal. But I mean, hunters don't do it, because we get that connection.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of it in those terms before. So when you wrote that in here, I was really, that was enlightening for me. And I've read a lot of these things and thought about these things a lot. So I really liked how you did that. And then you talk about the supermarket hitman.
Yeah. So they go, people buy steaks and hamburger and chicken and everything else. And it's just cellophane wrapped meat. So you're not really thinking about the animal that died to put that there. So essentially people who go and they buy those meat products, they're paying a hitman to do the killing for them. They're still killing, but they're just trading money. They're trading money for that death. And so it's, we don't get out of here without there's death associated with, even if it's just living in this house, because there's wood here, whatever animals were living here where this house was built. Driving on the roads, displacing animals, killing animals. So it's like, you can't get away from it. It's just, you need to accept it. And that's hard for some people.
Oh yeah. I mean, talk about wheat fields, cornfields. I mean, it's amazing how people can go through life totally oblivious to that, because there is not that connection to the land, the animals that inhabit it anymore. Now we can go to the grocery store. We can call 911 if someone's breaking into your home. You don't have to pick up a weapon to defend yourself. And it's only for a very slim part of human history has this been possible. And COVID in 2020 maybe made some people think that, society is not maybe as stable as I thought. And hopefully people took some steps to be more self-reliant, more prepared. I think a lot of people did get into hunting or reconnect with some of those roots, or reconnect with that DNA and that blood that's flowing through their veins. But society is certainly fragile, and it's only been like for the instant of human history where we've been able to not be good at the hunting and not be good at the fighting. But
we're pretty spoiled right now.
We are very spoiled, very comfortable. Very comfortable. Right. Yeah. You talk about being comfortable and uncomfortable in here. I love that chapter as well. And I want to be respectful of your time, because I know you have to get to work, but there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on. And one is Joe Rogan saying there's enough cake for everyone. I love how you wove that in.
I know. It's so true. It's like, he was the first one who really walked the walk in that regard, where I say, as I said earlier, men are competitive, and sometimes, some men will take another success as like a slight of their own achievements. Well, Joe, maybe he saw that, or maybe he is a discussion, but he just said, he goes, there's enough cake for everybody. You can win, they can win, everybody can have cake. And I was just like, man. And he exemplifies that, because he's been my biggest cheerleader. Actually, what I've told him is like, I wish I believed in myself as much as you believe in me, and that's true because I don't, but he's like the ultimate cheerleader. And so it's kind of, that always stuck with me when he said there's enough cake for everybody. We can all succeed. Your success doesn't have to cost somebody else.
Exactly. Especially in this country. But I love how you wove that in. And then I wanted to ask you to share a story about Roy's buck, because Roy, obviously you talk about him on social channels. Your friendship is, I mean, what an incredible friendship you guys had. But the Roy's buck, like I got emotional reading that chat. I didn't think I was gonna get emotional reading Endure. I thought we were gonna be running through the woods and hunting and all. And then that story got like really, really got me. What was that? Getting that call and then going out the next morning and finding that buck.
Yeah, it was. What I say is I wouldn't be talking to you right now if it wasn't for Roy. It was Roy's the one who introduced me to bow hunting. Roy was he was he was always like a very strong Christian and never wavered, and he would just have a positive impact on me. He always believed in me, had a positive impact on me from not only introducing me to bow hunting, but through our whole lives. And, it's, when I got that call where he had fallen and, my wife called and said, you need to call Jill, which is Roy's wife. And Roy had an accident. So I called her and I said, what's going on? She said, Roy's not coming home. And he'd been up sheep hunting and fell. And at that time that evening, I hit a buck, and I hit a buck a little low and a little back, big whitetail in Colorado. And so I didn't want to push it. So we backed out, and I figured, I got liver back there and, it's going to go a little ways and die. But I didn't want to push it because animals can be very tough. And so it was in the middle of the night. It's like, or not in the middle of the night, but at like 11 when I got that call. I couldn't sleep all night. Roy, it was clear that he had died. He was laying up there. There was a guy with him and could see him. He'd fallen 700 feet. And it was, it was clear that he had died. And so that's all I was thinking about all night is, that Roy was gone, and it was hard. And so I'm like, we went to look for this deer and couldn't find it. Couldn't find blood, couldn't find anything. So we spread out. And I was like, just tears streaming down my face all morning, just kind of felt fruitless out there looking around. And is Eastern Colorado. So big, like there's kind of like wheat fields or different crops out there. And CRP and Milo is what they eat out there too. So it just seems like expansive and seems like, mission impossible to find this deer. Anyway, we ended up finding it. And I feel like Roy, I wanted to find it. I wanted to have something positive. I wanted to have, I felt like he was watching down on us, and there's me and Kip Folks again, and some other guys. And we found this deer. And so then that to me, that's Roy's buck. And Roy's buck is sitting right here in the dining room right now. And it's just that white-tailed deer that I found the night after he'd fallen. And it was a really hard time. If I think about it too much, it's still, it impacts me. I have the tattoo on us of our last hunt right here on my arm. That's Roy there. And this is the moose I killed. And, the impact he had on me is changed my life. Yeah. And like I said, I wouldn't be here without him.
Yeah. Well, that photo that's tattooed on your arm is in the book here. It's a great photo of you guys. And there's another thing there's so many things that stood out for me in here. Probably could we share that, that common bond of hunting. There's something that bonds us all together there. But I was fortunate enough to know both my great grandmothers, born in the late 1800s, made it through World War I. They have memories of their brothers going off to war, that sort of a thing, and then making it through the Depression and then World War II. So I have these lessons from these people that had to deal with putting food on the table during the Depression, and it wasn't as comfortable back then.
No, definitely not.
But you have this chapter here, and it says, "Love one another." And one of my great grandmothers, she actually, one born in Oregon. But that was her thing. She would always say that to us kids, our great grandchildren. She would say that. And so I love that you write this, and I won't read the whole thing here because I want people to get the book and read this, but love one another. Take time to think about what you're grateful for. I love doing this while I'm on my runs. Pray for people going through hard times, not just family and friends, but people you work with and encounter. Be grateful to know the stories and the suffering others have to go through. And there's so much more here that is so powerful. But I want people about forgiveness in here, and friendship and inspiration. So I want people to get the book and to read that. But that one really stood out to me because of my great grandmother. I mean, even all these years later, I still think about it daily.
Yeah.
So so that was amazing. So thank you for including that. That was very powerful. And then I want to ask you about imposter syndrome, because a lot of people deal with it. You talk about Joe deals with it. You think about it. What is this imposter syndrome?
I didn't really know that that's what it was, but Joe and I were talking about it one time on this podcast, and it's just like, I feel like, cause I don't feel talented. I don't feel like I'm an expert, like we talked about earlier. So I feel like at any moment, and I think it's a big reason why I haven't quit my regular job, because I feel like at any moment somebody's going to come in and be like, what's going on here? You're a nobody. You should get back to your nobody life. And this is you're a fraud. And that's what I feel like. I feel like somebody's going to figure out that I'm not an expert. I don't believe in myself all the time, that I have all these, I don't know what it'd be, but I have all these doubts. And so I feel like an imposter, that I'm like somebody who doesn't deserve to have even this book or even the job I have. I have a great job, my 9 to 5. I'm the superintendent at the water and power company. And I feel like somebody would come in there and be like, get back in the ditch. You don't deserve to be leading these men, because I respect them. Yeah. And I have that connection with them, because I feel like I'm just the guy just trying to earn a break. And so I feel like somebody's going to come in, figure it out, and then I'll be back to the same old normal life I deserve.
Yeah. You hear people talk about the imposter syndrome. You heard people in the SEAL teams when we started to get into maybe some leadership training or something like that, which we didn't really do till my last couple of years in. It was really baptism by fire up to then. But that's the first time I heard this imposter syndrome thing. And I was like, what? Like, I just didn't, I didn't quite get it. But I love that you think, even as the superintendent, like you feel like imposter syndrome there. And I read that in here. I'm like, come on. But I think it's a fascinating thing. But yeah, I can honestly say that I haven't felt that. So that's why I'm so fascinated by it.
Right.
And then what goes along with that, sometimes you get this self-sabotage, I think, that people can do sometimes, when they're on a trajectory. And I don't know, there's some of this psychology to all of it that, maybe I just had my head down for so many years that I haven't even took enough to take my head up to take a breath, and then I'd have it. But, I'm just sprinting so hard. I've never, maybe I shouldn't take a breath, because then I might feel it.
Right. No.
And I wanted to ask you about the Origin hunting line that I know you're involved with before I let you go. How's that been, developing this new hunting line? It's all made in America. I see there are pieces that are starting to get out there, I think, and get tested by certain people here and there. But what's that been like?
Yeah. It's been a perfect opportunity for me, because, I was the Under Armour thing. I was kind of ran its course, and my contract was up. And so it just seemed like a good time to maybe do something different. And so I decided to do that. And then I was talking with Jocko and Kip and Pete at Origin, and, what about doing an American made, Jocko has this manufacturing, and Pete is his partner, but Origin, they make jeans and boots and work clothes already, gis, things like that for jujitsu. And it's like, well, what about hunting? What could we do in America? Because there's no more patriotic people than hunters. I mean, there are a lot of people that serve in the military come back to hunting. Even a lot of people who weren't in the military but support the military efforts and believe in our country and what we do. They're patriotic too. So it's like, hunters, it's hard to find top end hunting garments or hunting clothes that are not made overseas. Yep. Everything's made in Vietnam, Korea, China, all this stuff. And right now we were sick of sending money over there to basically gear up for our passion. So it's like, well, let's do it ourselves. Let's make this in America and give these patriotic group of men and women who love the hunt and love our country an option of American made top end gear. Yeah. So that's what we're doing.
That is awesome. I mean, you certainly have the right team for it. So I'm excited to see where it goes and excited to try it out. But before I let you go, I want to talk about a couple more quick things here. You quote Ernest Hemingway, which of course resonated with me. And you quote him saying, "Every man's life ends the same way. It is only the details of how he lived and how he died that distinguish one man from another."
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We're all dying. And so it's like, man, we got to give everything we got. We got to make that, like I said, that positive impact on people. We got to live up to our full potential, and maybe even beyond it. It's like sometimes you can, your skills might be here, but because of your passion, you might be achieving more than you actually deserve. And so taking full advantage of everything. And it's like, yeah, I love those strong, powerful words from great authors. Another one you mentioned, you mentioned Louis L'Amour, but also then I thought about another author, Jack London. I used to read.
Yeah, I read his quote in here. I almost brought it up to you again. That was fantastic.
I mean, I love those guys. I mean, writers. It's like, is there any? I don't know of anything more powerful than pen on paper. I mean, obviously it's typewriter now, or computers now, but you know what I mean? It's just like the power of the pen can change the world. Essentially, words can change the world, and that's like I've always been drawn to this, to written word.
Oh, it's so cool. You can tell by who you quote in here, and then how you frame your thoughts around those quotes. And it was just, I thought it was a great read. I'm going to give this to my daughter after this podcast so that she can read it. And she's quite the hunter as well. At age 16, she started very early and just had a natural inclination to want to go out and do it without me even talking about it to her. I mean, we just had Outdoor Channel on or whatever, and we'd see those shows, and she really just wanted to do it. And so we've been doing it together for the longest time. Just got back from Hawaii, did the axis hunt out there a couple of weeks ago, and so she got an amazing axis. It was a great one. But also you talk about, I'm going to ask you about these 4 words because I know they mean so much to you. Train, hunt, provide, honor.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's my life right there. I mean, I train to be at my best on the hunt. Hunt is what we're born to do. It's what I feel like has changed my life. Just being a bow hunter's put me on a different trajectory. I was drinking, I was doing all this stuff small town guys do, crashing cars, doing all this not healthy stuff. So the hunt changed my life. And then we do that to provide. My freezer is full of meat. I love providing to my community. I take meat into work, put it in a cooler in the lunchroom when people can take it. And then we honor the animals. And that's that county coup people might not get as far as honoring the life of the animal. But Roy's buck, the mountain in the dining room there, that to me, I'm just honoring the memory of that animal. I got skulls right here from bucks I've killed. And it's, that's everything. To me, if I can do those 4 words, I don't have to think about them. That's just what I do. But I like how those 4 words pretty much capture my life's journey.
Oh, they sure do. And they're powerful. And anyone would be wise to think about those words and apply them to their own life. And I want to, I'm going to let you, I know you have to get back to work and you probably have a marathon to run or 2. And I know you got to get in the gym and throw the weight around. So I know you got things to do. Yeah. But this is really cool too. And you finished, it's very near the end of your book here. And it comes from kind of an unlikely source from the basketball world. And it's very cool. And it says here, "When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stone cutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow, it will split in 2. And I know it was not that blow that did it, but all that had gone before."
Right.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I thought so too. And the person who shared that with me is George Hill. He played for the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich. And so George, he wanted to bow hunt. So I got him up on in Utah there, where I elk hunt, and he went up there. He didn't kill a bull, but he got to experience elk hunting at its finest, basically bugling bulls in close. But he shared that story with me and that quote with me, and it just really resonated because it's just like you just keep hammering, just keep working. Eventually, you'll break through. That stone will break. Your life will. You'll get that break you needed. But it's it's not one blow. It's just going to take consistent effort.
Oh yeah. No, that one stood out to me because I could ask for advice now. And I can tell people that if you don't put in the work, it's not going to happen. Even if you do, it might not. But for sure, when that opportunity, when someone maybe lends you a hand or that opportunity, you sense that opportunity, you feel it and it's time. If you haven't put on the work, down here in the foundation, well, it's not happening. So regardless if it happens or not, you got to put in the work. So,
gotta be ready.
Man, thank you so much for spending all this time with me. I sincerely appreciate it. I know you got things to do, but May 17th, same day as In the Blood comes out. So I'd love that we're sharing this publication day. When I saw that, when you first announced that this was coming out, I looked at when it was coming out and I saw that date and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. So it's such an honor to share a publication date with you. And man, I hope I see you again in person soon. But thanks for writing this. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for being open and honest and inspiring so many people the way you do.
Well, it's an honor to be here talking with you. I got a lot of respect for what you do and your ability to write and tell a story. And I love to see, I share in your success from afar because you remember the first time we met was in Vegas. I think I was at Eva and at a Taco Bell. Wasn't
that's
it?
right. At the Taco Bell party. At Vegas at SHOT Show. That was so fantastic. It was so fun to hang out a little bit there. And hopefully we can do it again soon, man.
Let's do it. Well, take care. Thank you very much.
You take care. Have a great day. Navy Federal Credit Union. I've actually been a member since 1996, the year that I joined the Navy. And Navy Federal Credit Union wants to thank the men and women in the U.S. military for their important commitment to our country. For more than 85 years, Navy Federal Credit Union has made it their mission to help people in the military community. Navy Federal Credit Union is open to all branches of the military, veterans, and their families. Navy Federal's employees are veterans and military spouses, so they're part of the community they serve, and they understand their members better than anyone. Members can enjoy an average earning and savings of $352 per year, a savings rate 3 times the industry average. An average credit card, APR 5% lower than the industry average, award-winning 24/7 stateside member service, over 350 branches worldwide. Show your own support for our troops with #MissionMilitaryThanks. Learn more about how Navy Federal is celebrating the commitment that connects them to their members at NavyFederal.org/celebrate. And I also have to read that this is insured by NCUA. Dollar value represents the results of the 2020 Navy Federal Member Give Back Study. Value claim based on Navy Federal's 2020 Member Give Back Study. Credit card value claim based on 2020 Navy Federal as low as APR averages compared to advertised industry APR averages as of December 31st, 2020, published on creditcards.com. Thanks so much. Check out NavyFederal.org. I want to thank my friends at Black Rifle Coffee for sponsoring the Danger Close podcast. I've been a huge fan for the longest time. Drink Black Rifle Coffee every day. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you will notice that perhaps Chris Pratt is wearing a Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt, not unsimilar to this one, in the Amazon series adaptation of The Terminal List. Now you can go to blackriflecoffee.com/dangerclose and use code DangerClose20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Keep crushing. It's time to get mountain tough. Make America tough again, right there on the shirt. You know when you go to the gym and you don't know what workout to do? I hate that. With Mountain Tough, they have created the most functional fitness programs ever designed, all delivered to your phone. Created by veteran Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, they make it convenient to go to the gym, do the prescribed workout, and get in the best shape of your life physically and mentally. As you know, if you've been following me for a while, I've been doing a lot more typing than I've been doing running or lifting or doing any functional type fitness. So this is how I'm going to get back after it. Mountain Tough. Plus, they're awesome guys. I've met them down here. We did a little podcast type interview together, and they are awesome. Solid crew. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And Increase mental toughness, build muscle, improve endurance anytime, anywhere from any mobile device. Thousands of hours of testing on dedicated mountain hunters, first responder, and military personnel. Programs for everyone, those who hit the gym and heavy weights, those who like to work out at home with no gear at all. Guidance for beginner, intermediate, and elite athletes. The right nudge from the right person at the right time can change your destiny. And regardless of your age or circumstances, I am nudging you to start today, as I know the Mountain Tough programs and Mountain Tough community will enable you to become the best version of yourself. Mountain Tough, that is MTNTOUGH, is offering Danger Close listeners 20% off all their online training programs and apparel with the code DangerClose at mtntough.com. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. All right, got a couple things to talk about today. First, I want to thank Isaac Ailman, who now works at Black Rifle Coffee as their archery bow hunting specialist. Yes, they have an archery bow hunting specialist, and I think that's awesome. But he was so kind, such a great guy, and such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to archery and bow hunting. But he knew that I have been a Rambo fan for as long as I can remember. And of course, Rambo was introduced to the world with 1972's First Blood. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of the publication of First Blood, and it has never been out of print. But he gave me this bow, and check that out. Hoyt. Oh, yeah. What does that say right there? Rambo. Man, thank you so much. I mean, this is awesome. I am so fired up for this, and check that out. Look at that quiver on the side. If you can see that, look at that. Old school right there. Yeah. So, man, Isaac, thank you so much. Sincerely appreciate this. And then Isaac goes above and beyond. And he didn't just gift me this. He gifted me this. It's accompanying bow right here. So that is just too cool. I'm going to find a great spot for these. I'll give him the once over and sling some arrows. But that is just awesome. So thank you so much, Isaac. And I'm going to get down there to Black Rifle Coffee soon. And we can sling some arrows together. And what else do I have here? Little blade. We're talking about bows. We're talking about Rambo. So I can't very well not talk about a blade. But check this out. Cudaway right here. So this is Cudaway. You can go to cudaway.com, check out what they have going on, and also follow them on Instagram at Cudaway. So Cudaway. Awesome blade. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. Find out more about Cameron Hanes at CameronHanes.com, and that is CameronHanes. Be sure and follow him on Instagram at Cameron Hanes. You can follow me on the social channels at Jack Carr USA. You can go to officialjackcarr.com. That is the website, or go to jackcarrusa.com for the gear. In the Blood is also on shelves now, as is Cameron Hanes' new book, Endure. Be sure and pick it up. Actually, go ahead and pick both of them up. If you like this conversation, be sure and leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube. And until the next time, take care out there. Be safe. Stay strong. Keep fighting.